भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय आप्यायनास्त्वं स्वकृते हिता प्रभो जिहाससि स्वित् सुरतोऽनुजीविजा येषं न चान्यात् भवता पदाम्बुजात् पारायणं राजसूयोजितामसाम्.
O my Lord, you have executed all duties yourself. Are you leaving us today? Though we are completely dependent on your mercy and have no one else to protect us, now, when all the kings are at enmity with us?
देवायं नाम रूपाभ्यां युधुभिः सह पाण्डवा भवतो दर्शनं यहि ऋषिकानां निवेशितु.
As the name and fame of a particular body is finished with the disappearance of the living spirit, similarly, if you do not look upon us, all our fame and activities, along with the Pandavas and Yadus, will end at once.
नेयं शोभिष्यते तत्र यथेदानीं गदाधरा त्वत्पादैरङ्किता भाति स्वलक्षाना विलक्षिते.
O Gadadhara, Krishna, our kingdom is now being marked by the impressions of your feet, and therefore it appears beautiful, but when you leave, it will no longer be so.
इमे जानापदा स्मृद्धा सुपक्ष्वौषादिविरुधा वनाद्रीनाद्युनाद्युदान्वन्तो ये दान्ते तव वीक्षिताय.
All these cities and villages are flourishing in all respects because the herbs and grains are in abundance. The trees are full of fruits, the rivers are flowing, the hills are full of minerals, and the oceans full of wealth. And this is all due to your glancing over them.
अथा विश्वेश विश्वात्मन् विश्वमूर्ते स्वकेषु मे स्नेहपाशं मे मां चिन्धि धृन्दं पाण्डुषु वृष्णिषु.
O Lord of the universe, soul of the universe, O personality of the form of the universe, please, therefore, severe my tie of affection for my kinsmen, the Pandavas and Vishnus.
त्वयि मे नन्यविषया मतिर्माधुपते सकृत् रतिमुद्वाहता दादा गङ्गे वोगमुदान्वती.
O Lord of Madhu, as the Ganges forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my attraction be constantly drawn unto you, without being diverted to anyone else.
Shri Krishna Krishna Sakha Krishna Raya Sambhavani Drug Rajanya Vamsha Dahanana Pavararga Virya Govinda Koti Jasurati Haravatara Yogeshwara Hila Guru Bhagavan Namaste.
O Krishna, O friend of Arjuna, O chief amongst the descendants of Vrishni, you are the destroyer of those political parties which are distributing elements on this earth. Your prowess never deteriorates. You are the proprietor of the transcendental abode, and you descend to relieve the distress of the cows, the brahmanas, and the devotees. You possess all mystic powers, and you are the preceptor of the entire universe. You are the Almighty God, and I offer you my respectful obeisances.
Sutta uvacha prithayetham kalapade parinutta kilodaya mandam jahasi vaikuntho mohayanniva mayaya.
Sutta Goswami said, the Lord, thus hearing the prayers of Kunti Devi, composed in choice words for his glorification, mildly smiled. That smile was as enchanting as his mystic power.
Sambadam mityupamantra Pravishya Gajasavayam Trityascha Swapuram Yasyan Premnaragya Nivarita.
Thus accepting the prayers of Srimati Kunti Devi, the Lord subsequently informed other ladies of his departure by entering the palace of Hastinapur. But upon preparing to leave, he was stopped by King Yudhishthira, who implored him lovingly.
Vyasadhyerishware Hagye Krishnenadhuta Karmana Prabodhito Vidihase Nabhudyata Shucharpita.
King Yudhishthira, who was much aggrieved, could not be convinced, despite instructions by great sages headed by Vyasa and the Lord Krishna himself, the performer of superhuman feats, and despite all historic evidence.
Aharaja Dharmasutta Chintayan Suradam Vadam Prakritenatmana Vipra Snehamoha Vasham Gata.
King Yudhishthira, the son of Dharma, overwhelmed by the death of his friends, was aggrieved just like a common materialistic man. O sages, thus deluded by affection, he began to speak.
Aho me pashajat jnanam hridi rudam duratmana parakyasya vadayasya bhavyo meksho hinithate.
King Yudhishthira said, O my lot, I am the most sinful man. Just see my heart, which is full of ignorance. This body, which is ultimately meant for others, has killed many phalanxes of men.
Baladija surin mitra piti bhratir guru druha name nirayan moksho yapi varshayuta yute.
I have killed many boys, brahmanas, well-wishers, friends, parents, preceptors, and brothers. Though I live millions of years, I will not be relieved from the hell that awaits for me for all these sins.
Nainuragya prajabhartur dharma yuddhe vadodvisham iti mena tu buddhaya kalpate shashanam vacha.
There is no sin for a king who kills for the right cause, who is engaged in maintaining his citizens, but this injunction is not applicable to me.
Srinamadatta bandhunam droho yosa vihotitaha karma vigraha medhiye naham kalpo vyapohitam.
I have killed many friends of women, and I have thus caused enmity to such an extent that it is not possible to undo it by my material welfare work.
Yatha pankena pankambaha suraya vasura bhutahatyam tathevakam nayagirmashtramarhati.
As it is not possible to filter muddy water through mud or purify a wine-stained pot with wine, it is not possible to counteract the killing of men by sacrificing animals.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. You both are professionals, I must say. And especially on our Chad Sangha. This is not the first time you're reciting. I've heard you before also. Amazing. So are you learning the Sanskrit verses?
I just, if I have time, I read through them before the session. And initially my mom helped me with the meter and everything.
That's very nice. Well done. Well done to both of you. Your English was flawless. Thank you. Please come again. We love listening to you both.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. All right. Let me see if I can get my... Too many windows open. So let me get my PowerPoint up. And Okay. Show from start. Right. So, okay, we are still discussing our wonderful chapter 8, Queen Kunti's prayers. Before we move on to our verse, let's just recite some prayers. Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udiret. Shrinvantam swakatha Krishna punya shravana kirtana hridayantastohya bhadrani vidunoti shruhatsatam nashtaprayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavate uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. So today we are going to discuss a bit on verse number 40 from chapter 8. Ime jana pada shriddha supakva shudhi viruddha vanadri nadi udvanto hyadante tava vikshite. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. All these cities and villages are flourishing in all respects because the herbs and grains are in abundance. The trees are full of fruits, the rivers are flowing, the hills are full of minerals, and the oceans full of wealth. And this is all due to your glancing over them. Purport. Does somebody want to read the purport? Okay. So if nobody, then I will just read it. Human prosperity flourishes by natural gifts and not by gigantic industrial enterprises. The gigantic industrial enterprises are products of a godless civilization, and they cause the destruction of the noble aims of human life. The more we go on increasing such troublesome industries to squeeze out the vital energy of the human being, the more there will be unrest and dissatisfaction of the people in general. Although a few only can live lavishly by exploitation. The natural gifts such as grains and vegetables, fruits, rivers, the hills of jewels and minerals, and the seas full of pearls are supplied by the order of the Supreme. And as he desires, material nature produces them in abundance or restricts them at times. The natural law is that the human being may take advantage of these godly gifts by nature and satisfactorily flourish on them without being captivated by the exploitative motive of lording it over material nature. The more we attempt to exploit material nature according to our whims of enjoyment, the more we shall become entrapped by the reaction of such exploitative attempts. If we have sufficient grains, fruits, vegetables, and herbs, then what is the necessity of running a slaughterhouse and killing poor animals? A man need not kill an animal if he has sufficient grains and vegetables to eat. The flow of river waters fertilizes the fields, and there is more than what we need. Minerals are produced in the hills and the jewels in the ocean. If the human civilization has sufficient grains, minerals, jewels, water, milk, etc., then why should it hanker after terrible industrial enterprises at the cost of the labor of some unfortunate men? But all these natural gifts are dependent on the mercy of the Lord. What we need, therefore, is to be obedient to the laws of the Lord and achieve the perfection of human life by devotional service. The indications by Kunti Devi are just to the point. She desires that God's mercy be bestowed upon them so that natural prosperity be maintained by His grace. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatirubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine. Okay, so simple verse, but also very, very important and instructive and interesting. Now, Prabhupada in the purport says, human prosperity flourishes by natural gifts and not by industrial enterprises. Now, it's amazing that these purports to Srimad Bhagavatam were written by Prabhupada so many years back. At that time, global warming and climate change and all of these things were not a major topic of discussions. But see how an empowered personality could, even at that time, give us the message, make us understand that what is happening right now is not good for us, right? Now, I am not somebody who claims to understand all these things. I don't have knowledge of global warming or climate change or whatever. But while I was doing research, I read this, that human beings, because we are relying on unsustainable production methods, that is the fundamental driver of climate change. Of course, the Earth's climate fluctuates due to other reasons also, but the scientists have shown that there is a direct connection between the current rapid rate of climate change and the start of industrialization. So it is because of, and one does not say that there should not be industrialization, but the whole point is that this rapid industrialization, where there has been exploitation of the resources that Mother Earth has to offer without any consideration or without any understanding of how we can replenish the resources, that has never been taken into consideration. And that is why today we are where we are, where one is thinking of how much of a bad effect it is having on Mother Earth. And His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj actually said once that, do not exploit resources, but try to replenish, and whatever she gives naturally must be employed in the Lord's service. So again, time and time again, the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam keeps on giving us this message to understand that whatever we have is not ours. It has been provided by the Supreme Lord, and because it has been provided by the Supreme Lord, it should be used in His service. And however, one has to understand that one should only use so much as much is needed. And in the scriptures and in various lectures, Prabhupada gives the analogy, and he gives the example, actually, not the analogy. He gives the example that when a lot of grains is scattered on just the road or anywhere, you will see that the birds will fly down to the grains, a whole lot of them. But they will only pick up what they need. It is only the human being who will not only pick up what he needs, but then he will say, let me store for the future, let me store for my children, let me get some for my relatives. So it is always this mentality where we want more. We just keep wanting. So it is not the need. And Prabhupada goes on to explain that if it was just the need, then Mother Earth is giving us everything. So he says in the purport, and in one of his classes, actually, he says that if you depend on God's creation, then there is no scarcity. Sorry, there's some background sound. If you depend on God's creation, there is absolutely no scarcity. It's simply Ananda. And he gives the example in some of his classes and lectures where he says that the elephant, how much the elephant eats is, you can't imagine. Like, it's obviously so much more than what a human being needs. And, there are so many other animals in the forest. There are birds. They've never had to think or to ration anything. It's only the human beings where we say that, there is not enough. But Prabhupada always says that there is more than enough. It is because of our greed that we don't get enough. It is because we don't depend on God's creation. It's almost like if a person is a farmer or or is living according to the Vedic times, he's considered primitive. He is considered not advanced at all. So does advancement mean exploiting Mother Earth? Does advancement mean having so many industries and then polluting the entire earth? That's something that we all should think about. And like I said right at the beginning, that I am not somebody who understands all of these things, but yes, I can see all around me how everybody is talking about the environment and how we need to actually start focusing on how we can help. Prabhupada explains that if you just depend on God's creation, one can farm, there are grains, the animals will have the grass, you have the grains, you have enough trees, the trees are giving you fruits. So there is complete cooperation between the animals, the human being, and the trees. When Krishna is in the center, when you realize that all of this is being provided to you by Krishna, and simply by his glance, and Queen Kunti says this, Tava Viksita, just by your glancing, we are able to get all of these facilities. So Krishna is so merciful that he is giving us all these things, but constantly we want to have more and more because we are not able to satisfy our senses. And that is the whole problem. But here Queen Kunti is very, very grateful to Krishna, and she is actually thanking him for all that is there. So here she is giving a very nice description of how one can be satisfied materially and how there is, flourishing. And she says, Ime Janapada Shritta. All these cities and towns are flourishing. Why are they flourishing? Because Krishna, you are here. Because you are glancing upon them. Now, the problem in today's day and age is that we don't depend on the natural things that are available to us. Every plant, every creeper is useful. And in previous generations, most of you must have heard of Ayurveda and homeopath, where, they use natural ingredients. Aushadhi, all these things that are being made here by this, this image, as you can see, natural ingredients are being used to make Aushadhi. Aushadhi means medicine. So every plant and every creeper used to be useful. And in the Vedic times, there were learned individuals who knew how these can be used. And by using this, they were able to keep the good health of the general population. But nowadays, we are totally neglecting all of these herbs, all of these vegetables. And that is why if you see more and more, whenever you compare the human beings living in villages, still following somewhat the Vedic lifestyle, they are much more healthier than people who are living in the cities. And every time we hear how polluted so many of the cities are, we hear that Delhi is one of the most polluted cities. And because there is so much pollution in Delhi, everybody from young children to old people are suffering from various kind of lung diseases or breathing difficulties. And even if you don't realize it now, it is affecting your lungs. And in the near future, very soon, one will realize how it has affected your health so badly. And that is because, because of industrialization, because we want more and more place. So we are cutting down the forest. We are not planting as many forest trees as we are cutting down. Obviously, when there is lack of trees, the pollution is increasing. There is no oxygen. And that is why people sometimes struggle to even breathe. I remember almost 21 years back, I traveled to Delhi for one presentation or something that I had to do for my study. And it was winter time. And I was traveling in an open rickshaw. And, you feel the heaviness of the air. You couldn't really breathe because there was so much pollution. And this I'm talking of 20 years back. Since then, the number of vehicles has increased. I don't know how many times. I'm just going to randomly say 10 times, but I'm sure it must be even 100 times in 20 years. Industrialization has increased. So, unfortunately, we are running behind, like Prabhupada would say, running behind technology and industrialization. In the process, we are losing the main focus of human life. In the purport, Prabhupada says this, right? Now, Krishna's arrangement is very complete if we would just understand that. And this verse very nicely actually says, Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaye Purnam Eva Vashishyate. And so this verse is actually saying that Krishna is whole, his arrangement is complete. I'm not giving the word-to-word translation for it. I'm just, explaining what it means. And although we have come to this material world actually in defiance of Krishna, we have come to this material world in order to satisfy our own senses. Still, he is so merciful that he is giving us all the facilities so that we can prosper in the material world. And in the Bhagavad Gita, he says this, that by praying, by offering to the demigods and in cooperation, the human beings and the demigods, then you can live a prosperous life. So Krishna is such a loving father. And I'm sure all of us must have experienced that sometimes when our children are misbehaving, we may get upset and angry with them, but that does not mean that we stop caring for them or loving them and providing for them whatever is needed. And same way, Krishna is giving us everything. So his arrangement is complete, but we have forgotten Krishna and we have decided that we want to exploit the material world and we want to enjoy the material world. So material enjoyment is sense gratification. And as soon as you start to realize or try to understand that you are spiritual and there is something beyond this material world, and then you understand the spiritual world, you realize that there is no sense gratification in the spiritual world. All that happens in the spiritual world is Krishna's happiness. How do you please Krishna? How do you serve Krishna? How do you satisfy Krishna? And I think in my last session, or one of the sessions I was talking about how one can actually make your material world into a spiritual world by changing your focus from your own sense gratification to how you can satisfy Krishna. Actually, if you go deeper, you will realize that there is no material world as such or spiritual. There's no material world in that sense because everything is Krishna's energy, and Krishna and Krishna's energy are non-different. It is only because of our consciousness, because we are not utilizing the things that Krishna has provided us for his service. So in a sense, we are thieves, we are robbers, we're just taking everything for ourselves, right? So here Kunti is speaking. She is, in the verse that she is being recited, she's speaking to Krishna, how by the association of Krishna, everybody can be happy, and everybody, how they can live in these prosperous towns and cities. Now, because we are human beings, we cannot live in the forest. Forest is for animals, and Prabhupada says for uncivilized human beings. But for us, for civilized human beings, we do want to live in towns and cities which have good roads, gardens, rivers. And the description of such towns and cities is even given in our Srimad Bhagavatam when the city of Dwarka is being described, the city of Mathura is being described. And if you read the descriptions, it is beautiful. The houses has been described, the roads, how they are so clean, and there's trees and plants, and all of that is being described. So yes, we want to live in such places, and there is no harm in having such desire. However, we need to understand that it is all due to Krishna. And thus one must always remember this verse. This verse is so beautiful. From the Bhagavad Gita 9:22, Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana paryupashyate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yoga shemam vahamyaham. And the translation is, but those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. So always remembering this, surrendering to Krishna, praying to him, understanding that he is a provider, understanding that whatever I have is because of Krishna. Like Kunti Maharani is saying that all this auspiciousness, all this prosperity is because you are here. But if you go away, then what will happen? She is understanding and accepting that, and she is praying like that. Unfortunately, today, because we have forgotten God, or because we think God does not exist, it is all the intelligence of us human beings, and it is all the technology. God or Krishna is no longer the center of our existence. And thus we have started surrendering and taking shelter of industrialization. There was a time, even today, most of the Indian cities, big cities, you will see that most of them are on banks of rivers. Now, why is that? Because river was such an integral part of the day-to-day existence of human beings. And if you read the pastimes of Mahaprabhu, or you see that all of them, the villagers of Navadvip would go to the Ganges to have their daily bath, perform their pujas, daily rituals. But now there is so much waste that is being thrown into the rivers. There's so much toxic waste. So much of chemicals that is going into our rivers. I don't know if you've all read, but there is this campaign to clean River Yamuna, to clean the Ganga. Of course, I mean, the Ganga cannot be polluted materially. And hundreds and thousands of devotees still take bath in the Ganga and the Yamuna because they have that vision. But there is chemicals, not being checked, what is being thrown. And even 50 years back or before, Prabhupada in one of his lectures was talking about how on the way from Vrindavan to Delhi, these big tire industries have come up, and how they are polluting the river. So it is not that big cities did not exist during Vedic times, and we have description of Dwarka and Mathura, but there was no need for industries. There was no need for slaughterhouses. There was no need for all these wrong kinds of things like, brothels and etc. Because it was such a pure form of living where they lived in complete compliance with the scriptures, keeping Krishna in the center, and a symbiotic relationship was there between the trees, the animals, and the human being, and everybody lived in cooperation. So Prabhupada is talking about that, and here Kunti Maharani actually is saying that how just by Krishna's glance, everything is auspicious, and what will happen if he leaves. That is what she is saying. And then when I was reading and researching, I came across this short clip also in this. So it says in a scientific paper, this is said, this is by scientists, it says that there is substantial historical evidence to prove the presence of a very robust economic system in India. If all of you must, I don't know if you heard of Indus Valley civilization. When we were in school in India, we were taught about the Indus Valley civilization. I mean, this is like years and years, thousands of years old. But over there, you could see that the civilization was so advanced. They depended on agriculture. They domesticated animals. They also made sharp tools and weapons. They traded in terracotta pots, beads, gold, silver, colored gems, metals, flints, seashells, and pearls. They even built ships to reach other places where they could trade the gold and copper and all that. And Prabhupada also in the purport is talking about how there is so much of natural wealth. And it's funny, today is the 26th of Jan, and in India, everybody is celebrating Republic Day. I don't know how many of you come from India or know that background, but because I grew up in India, this was a big thing. And I was saying, so I love singing, so that's why I do know quite a few like old Bollywood songs. Not that I sing anymore, but I do know them. And when I was reading this song came into my mind. I don't know how many of you have heard it, but there is a song which goes, "Jahan dal dal pe sone ki chidiya karti hai basera, wo Bharat desh hai mera." Now, why I am talking about this song, I will tell you, is that imagine they are describing India, they are describing this India of the Vedic times or of the times before all these Mughals and the British went and invaded India. And it is being said that this India, on every tree branch, there was a gold bird. So it's not like actually there's a gold bird. What they're trying to say is that it was so rich. I've heard of descriptions where they say Doodh ki nadiya means rivers of milk was flowing in that India, And that was simply because in those days, there weren't these big industries. It was completely an agricultural based civilization, And it was a very clean and pure civilization where everybody just depended on what was naturally being given to them. I'm just going to stop sharing now. Yeah, everybody depended on what was naturally being given to them, and there was no exploitation of Mother Earth. And I don't know if you all know, most of you probably know that my forefathers come from a very small village in Bihar. And even today, when I go back there, I see the same thing. My cousin lives on his sole source of income is farming. And, they live off that. They grow their, when I was young and when I used to visit there, I remember that, they used to grow their own vegetables. We didn't have a lot of fruit farms because maybe we didn't know how to grow them, but we did have vegetables. And there was a lot of potatoes and wheat and, all of those things. All of North India, in fact, North India and Punjab is called the wheat factory of the world because we supply so much of these wheat and grains to everywhere. So in essence, what this verse is actually saying and what Prabhupada is saying in his purport is that just by depending on Krishna, understanding that he is the provider of everything, And it is only by his glance that all of this is happening. And so having that relationship where then you are also using everything for Krishna, one can live in this very nice relationship. Then sometimes the question may arise that, does that mean that we don't use any of these modern things? And Prabhupada addresses this question. He says that it does not mean that we will not use the microphone, or that we will not sit in the cars, or we will not travel by planes. Yes, we will do all of that, but we will be mindful that we are doing that in Krishna's service and not for our own sense pleasure and sense gratification. So that the whole point which Prabhupada always emphasizes is, what is the consciousness in which you are doing things? And he says that many a times people may visit the ISKCON centers and look at our devotees and think that he is doing a similar activity like somebody on the outside. But because his consciousness is different, that activity becomes spiritual. It is no longer material. He is not performing that activity for his satisfaction. Whatever he is doing it for the satisfaction of Krishna. So yeah, Kunti Maharani is such a great devotee, a relative of Krishna, and so humbly is praying to him, understanding that whatever she has is because of Krishna's presence, and when he goes away, we won't have anything. So I'm going to stop here, and if there are any questions or comments. One example I remembered, I forgot about it. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, I think it is Canto 4, there is a description of King Vena. Maybe some of you have read it. Now, he was a very, very cruel king. And so, all that we spoke about, like sacrifices and giving back to Mother Earth and, performing yagyas for the demigods, or, surrendering to Krishna and pleasing Krishna, he had stopped everything. And so because he had stopped everything, so Mother Earth stopped giving what she could give. And that's exactly what happens. Even now you will see that because we are exploiting Mother Earth so much, in so many places we have got destructive earthquakes and tsunamis and fire, and all of that is happening. And then, of course, we know that, King Prithu was born, and he actually decided that he's going to punish Mother Earth because, she's holding back from what she should actually give. And then there is the whole conversation. But the point is that if we don't understand this, then very soon a time will come, and we can see it with all the global warming, with all the climate change, what is happening. Very soon there will be a time where Mother Earth will stop giving us the benefits that she is giving, and then we won't know how to survive. The human race will not know how to survive. And that is what I guess is Kali Yuga. So yeah, that is going to happen. So okay, I shall stop here now. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay, no questions. Everybody seems to be satisfied. Okay, then we shall stop here, and thank you for joining every day. And hopefully I shall see you all next week. Next week is Nityanand Trayodashi on the 3rd. So please do come to the temple. We are going to have a very nice festival in the Haveli. So please do join for that. Thank you very much. Vancha kalpatrubhascha kripa sindhuvescha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo Antakoti Vaishnava.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Nice class.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Madhu Kumari Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Lovely